Welcome to Green TV, the show dedicated to positive Green New Deal solutions and the candidates that advocate for them. I'm Gail Farrell Parker, your host for today. Green TV is about Green New Deal, eco-jobs for the economy, new jobs. It's about positive solutions, eco-capitalism. Prices must tell the environmental truth. Green TV is about the green industrial revolution, solar jobs, wind jobs, geothermal jobs, rail jobs, weatherization jobs, conservation jobs, efficiency jobs. Green TV is about building green neighborhoods, walkable, bikeable, pedestrian and rail-friendly communities, having cleaner air and cleaner water. It's about cutting taxpayer subsidies to zero for fossil fuel, big oil, and big auto. Green TV is about renewable energy, free energy, clean energy. Rail built anywhere in America benefits all of America. Rail can move people, the economy, and the nation forward. But first, we have these short messages.
I'm Audrey Clement, the independent candidate for Arlington County Board. As a 13-year Westover resident and civic activist with a PhD in political science and service as a congressional fellow, I'm running for County Board because Arlington faces several crises that County Board has failed to address. Among them, overcrowded schools, loss of green space, and an office vacancy rate double the historic average. If elected, I pledge to emphasize basic services like streets, schools, libraries, and public safety, seek tax relief for residences and businesses, and stop the exodus of federal agencies from Arlington, promote consolidation of housing programs to improve efficiency, promote installation of efficient renewable energy in all public schools, and provide a voice on County Board for all taxpayers. If you share my agenda, then spread the word about my candidacy. Donate to my campaign. Together we can make the Arlington way more than an empty phrase. I'm Audrey Clement, and I authorized and paid for this message.
Ron Fisher is asking all candidates for public office to make implementing the UN Sustainability Development Goals target action plans part of their platform on both the state and local levels. Ron Fisher is a retired U.S. Navy captain and former nuclear submariner and engineer, a pacifist who advocates for the elimination of all nuclear weapons. Ron Fisher is a father, a husband, a grandfather, and the executive director of peoplenow.org, an independent Green candidate for delegate to Virginia's General Assembly from the 49th District. Ron Fisher supports renewable energy and more trains, less traffic. Vote for more trains, less traffic on November 7th. Vote for Ron Fisher.
I'm Ron Fisher, and I authorized and paid for this message.
In 2005, Gail Farrell Parker's More Trains, Less Traffic campaign made Gail the first candidate in Virginia to run on the platform for rail. Gail is the first candidate in the nation to run for public office on a campaign advocating for rail as a national security concern that makes the U.S. independent of fossil fuels and makes our air and water healthier. As an on-ballot candidate, Gail advocated for rail in 11 consecutive campaigns, including 2 state-level campaigns for U.S. Senate, and encouraged other candidates to include rail in their platforms. In addition, Gail serves the environment through renewable energy advocacy, and as she picks up steam, the rail platform now champions the handicapped and the elderly. A proud Air Force veteran, civil servant, mother, and grandmother, Gail is on a mission to show that rail built anywhere in America benefits all of America.
33,000 Americans are killed on our roadways every year. 430,000 Americans are injured or maimed on our roadways every year. Every year. Rail is safer. Rail saves lives. Rail cuts dependency on fossil fuels. We can build high-speed rail nationwide for half the total cost of rebuilding roadways and bridges. Rail is fiscally conservative and socially responsible.
If you share Gail's belief that every American deserves a say in the decisions that affect their lives, spread the word about this positive solution to today's issues and climb aboard our campaign for rail and renewable energy.
These petition signatures were collected from thousands of Americans for more trains and less traffic. I'm Gail Farrell Parker, and I approved this message. New Amtrak track and boarding platforms are under construction in Roanoke, Virginia. Construction began early in 2017, and the trains should be running as soon as September or November of this year. This will enable service directly to Roanoke from the National Capital Region and returning in a timely manner. WDBJ7 brings us sort of up to date on when we travel to Roanoke and back.
An update tonight as the work continues in Roanoke to bring back passenger rail. Crews are now focused on the rails downtown where the new platform will be located. They're laying ties for the new track and continuing work on the platform.
Right now we're still on track for a summer 2017 testing. Well, when we will be testing the trains, where Amtrak will be qualifying the trains, and that means we are still on track for a fall 2017 start of service.
When that testing starts, we'll see 2 trains a day, Monday through Friday, but no passengers until service starts in the fall.
TV is beginning a new feature today to rerun some of our most successful shows and give our crew a break in the summer. And this is the first.
Hi, welcome to Green TV. This is the show dedicated to green, positive solutions and the third-party and independent candidates that advocate for them. I am Gail Parker, your host, and we're honored to have with us today Emmy Award-winning journalist and author, Mr. Ed Rabel. Americans across the nation welcomed Ed Rabel into their homes as CBS News reporter covering the Vietnam War. Mr. Rabel's reporting experience on CBS and NBC spanned 5 decades of world-shaping events. Mr. Rabel's newly published book, Black Gold, Black Death, In Coal Country, America's President is Marked for Assassination, coincides with his run for Congress in the state of West Virginia. Welcome, Ed. May I call you Ed?
Absolutely.
Great. And what is it that compelled you to run for Congress?
Well, you know, I, as you pointed out, was covering the world, if you will, for both CBS and NBC. And I was born and reared in West Virginia, in Charleston, near Rabel Mountain, in fact. My family has an entire mountain named after the family because my relatives, my great uncles and my grandfather on my father's side were farmers there. But now those mountains, that beautiful Rabel Mountain and other mountains in my state are being ruined, destroyed by the coal barons and by big corporations. They're lopping the tops off of mountains. 500 mountains in America have been destroyed. And guess where they are? All 500 of them are in West Virginia. So I looked around and I saw that not a whole lot had been changed in the time that I had been away covering the world. And I came back to West Virginia to write my memoir and also to write this book, which is a fantastical book of fiction about how in southern West Virginia, in the coal fields, there is a palpable hatred for the President of the United States, President Obama, because of his alleged war on coal. Well, the truth is, it's both deceitful and dishonest for politicians in my state to say that the administration is conducting a war on coal. The reality is, in my state, less than 6% of income comes from coal mining. Less than 3% of jobs come from coal mining. So the reason I'm running in the 2nd Congressional District for the United States House of Representatives is that I think we can do better in West Virginia. I believe that we can, particularly now that the EPA has announced its initiative with regard to trying to reduce the emissions by 30% in our country, carbon emissions that is. I think we can be the leaders in that, if we will, through using our flattened mountains, if you will, to put in wind farms and solar power and so on. So what we're doing is pushing back against those corporate interests and trying to show a new way, and I'm trying to give West Virginians a voice that they've not had traditionally.
And what led to your decision to run as an independent or a third-party candidate?
You know, that's a very good question. And just before the 2012 presidential election in West Virginia, I was invited to speak before a gathering of Democrats in Kanawha County. I was invited to speak because nobody else would speak for the President of the United States, Obama, at this gathering. No Democrat would speak on his behalf. I was the only Democrat, and I was a Democrat at that time, who would speak on his behalf. Well, there were, you know, the Democrats, some Democrats, enlightened Democrats, if you will, in West Virginia, cheered me on, but there were a lot of people who didn't like that in the Democratic Party, in the established Democratic Party. A Democratic Party that has, the politicians have moved very far to the right. In fact, they've kind of morphed with the Republicans in the state.
It's one party.
It's one party, exactly right. And so what has happened is I think that I'm saying the things that the Democrats ought to be saying, and the Democrats won't have anything to do with me because I do have these progressive ideas that I think will, and, you know, in Kanawha County recently, 300,000 of my neighbors, citizens of 9 counties, where their water was poisoned by a coal-related industry, a storage company that whose chemicals got into the water system, and to this very day they're drinking bottled water there in Kanawha County. That's absolutely unconscionable. Right. So for those reasons, and because the Democrats are apologists in my state for the polluters, and for that reason I felt I no longer could be a part of the Democratic Party, and that I should run as an independent to give people a voice that the Democratic Party was not giving them.
And do you have a positive solution that you're putting forward in your campaign?
Well, absolutely. One of the things we want to do is a moratorium on fracking and mountaintop removal in my state. In other words, no new permits should be given until we determine exactly what's going to happen if they're fracking or if they're trying to remove the tops of mountains. Right now, incredible amounts of poison flow into the streams from mountaintop removal. An incredible amount of destruction is done to the countryside. And people are getting higher rates of cancer there. They're getting higher rates of diseases and illnesses as a result of this. And so what we want to do is put a moratorium on that. That's number one. There are many other things that I want to do, and people, if they want to take a look at my platform, can go to rabelforcongress.com and see the whole thing. But I would be glad to enumerate anything else that you might on what we. But that's the immediate thing that we want to try to do.
Many of those things are advocated for by the Mountain Party. Are you working with the Mountain Party?
Yes, we are. In fact, I've encouraged the Mountain Party membership to try to embrace what I'm doing. And the reason I ran as an independent was to try to reach out to a much larger audience in West Virginia. The Mountain Party does good work, and the people are in the Mountain Party are stand for the right things, and I stand with them for those things as well. But I just feel that in order to be effective and perhaps even win this race in the 2nd Congressional District, I have to appeal to a much larger audience, and I want the Mountain Party people to come along with me.
I see. Well, what are the things that you would like for folks to know about your campaign? Do you have 3 main points of your campaign?
Well, sure. My campaign is a campaign that is progressive. My campaign is a campaign that is based on a new beginning for West Virginia in terms of a new economy, jobs, a fixing of our infrastructure, which is in terrible shape, and also the idea that we have to move forward in our state and get away from the traditional extractive industries if we're going to make any headway at all. And if our people, Charleston, West Virginia, was voted recently by Gallup, not voted, but the Gallup people did a survey there. And it was determined by Gallup that Charleston is the most miserable city in the entire nation. And the state is the most miserable state in the entire nation. Now, that hurts me, and it hurts the people of West Virginia. I know that they're better than that, and I know we are better than that. So what I want to do with my campaign is not only to try to open eyes about our dependence on these extractive industries, but also to try to show the way that we can be a terrific state with our natural resources, with our water, with our mountains, with the beautiful scenery that we have, and for tourism to be exploited there, among other things. So I just think West Virginia and West Virginians are better than they're portrayed, and so I want to try to show the world that that's the case.
And do you see the solar industry, the wind industry, and geothermal as a replacement industry for the coal industry?
Well, not necessarily replacement, but certainly we ought to, I think it would be ironic if the state of West Virginia, known for so long for its extractive industries, its coal industry, that if we could, move ahead as the leaders in the development of solar and also in geothermal and also wind, if we could be the leaders in that, then I think that the role that coal plays, while it probably will continue to play somewhat of a role in our national energy policy, if we could just show the way by establishing wind farms and solar and geothermal and also the technology of the new energies, then I think that that would be remarkable and show the world that West Virginians have it in them to do something different.
I see. And in your view, I know you've reported from Vietnam during the war. In your view, would these alternative energies be an alternative to a war for oil?
Well, certainly, if we depend less and less on Middle Eastern oil, and now we are, you know, the problem with fracking is that we do get natural gas, which is a cleaner fuel, but if it's not done properly, if fracking is not done properly, then methane gas escapes, and that's far more damaging than the carbon that is, you know, for every pound of coal that we burn, 2.5 pounds of carbon dioxide are spewed into the atmosphere. Well, methane is even more dangerous than that. So, but what we can do is, and I know that we have capacity, the ability in West Virginia to do this, is to be the leaders, the tip of the spear, if you will, in developing these new energy sources, and I think that that will bring about a means by which we can not have this tension, the tension that we have had in the past that has led to these wars in the Middle East.
I see. Well, is this your first time to run for office?
It is my first time. I have had my eye on my home state when I was out covering wars and rumors of wars all over the world. I've kept my eye on my home state. My family is all there. The protagonist in my new book, Black Gold, Black Death, in Coal Country, America's President is Marked for Assassination. The protagonist is a fellow by the name of Wilhelm Metz, who was indeed my maternal grandfather, who died of injuries suffered as a result of injuries suffered in a coal mine accident in Kanawha County in West Virginia. He doesn't die in the book, but he lives. But at the same time, he is a fascinating character with an incredible background, and so the book portrays through him and through his eyes and through the eyes of his wife and other people, obviously, in the book, the problems that we are afflicted with, and not only the problems that beset West Virginia, but also the way in which politicians in our state pander to the fears of the people, and by continuing to harp on this notion that there's a war on coal. That's indecent, I think, and dishonest, but they do it, and they have been getting away with it. I'm trying to expose that.
Coal has a war on us, on them.
That's right. Well, in a way, you know, what we have here is when they talk about coal, they don't really talk about communities. They don't talk about coal miners and their families. They talk about the coal industry. And people have got to understand that, you know, we need a serious dialogue about the future of coal in West Virginia. And I think that coal miners are coming. In 1948, there were 126,000 coal miners in West Virginia. Today, there are fewer than 20,000 coal miners in West Virginia. It's a remarkable decline. That decline started long before the Environmental Protection Agency was even invented. It started out long before the Clean Air Act ever came into being. And so the notion that somehow, if the EPA were to go away tomorrow, that coal would come bounding back, that's fallacious. It's crazy. It's just not true. And so, but people are buying into that because the politicians continue to harp on the notion that President Obama is trying to kill the state and kill coal. Nothing farther from the truth.
I see. Well, Ed, since it's your first time to run for office, have you had any surprises? Is it what you expected it to be?
Well, I think that, you know, in my time, my career as a correspondent for both CBS and NBC, I ran across a few politicians in my day. And so I saw what they were up to, and I learned a lot of tricks, if you will. And I'm not suggesting that I'm playing tricks on the people of West Virginia or the voters at all. But I covered Jimmy Carter's campaign for the presidency, for example, from the moment he left Plains, Georgia, all the way to the White House, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I covered that campaign. So I saw I was one of those who I questioned his policies and his ideas along the way, because that's the job of a reporter. So I know what we're up to, and I know the questions that are going to be asked, and I'm not suggesting that I have all the answers by any means. But I think that the main thing is it's not a surprise at all. I don't think I've really been surprised so far, knock on wood. But I think the thing that is discomforting and disquieting and unfortunate is that people get sidetracked on the hot button issues. But I think that there are other issues in the state that I'm trying to really promote on which the lives of the people of the state are dependent, and these other issues, we can deal with those things, but I think the important things are try to deal with this whole question of the environment, of our future in West Virginia, where we're going with the extractive industries, what role coal will play in the future. All of those things are terribly important. I take those things up in the book, by the way.
Renewable energy is free energy. It's clean energy. Rail can run on renewable energy, and rail is safer. We need more trains and less traffic. Rail built anywhere in America benefits all of America. That's it for today's Green TV. I'm Gail for Rail Parker. Please join us again next time for Green TV.